don't go to the doctor and the doctor does all the tests and, yep, you've got a broken arm, and then the doctor doesn't say, well, would you like a Band-Aid or would you like a cast? The doctor doesn't say that. I like to use the analogy that ultimately soul is souls. Souls, that's sales and marketing together.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Souls.
Anyway, sales and marketing assisted. But I think they're more frenemies at the moment or more enemies than really working as sisters.
When you made the transition to obviously highly paid, highly successful commission-based selling, which I'm guessing is what you're doing with all those software programs and stuff like that, to your own business, how difficult did you find it?
So difficult. So I have to give you some context because I just finished my MBA. And everybody knows that someone with an MBA has to become a consultant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's what I decided.
Weekly coaching, proven sales tools, a clear system that helps you sell with confidence. That's the Accelerate Sales Hub. Jump in before 1 December to lock in the low price.
Anyway, today we are speaking with Frances Pratt, who is the author of I Cannot Tell You How Good I Think This Book Is. More Sales, Less Marketing. How to Take the Yuck Out of Selling. My dad always said to me, my dad was a surgeon until he retired. My dad always used to say to us, everything is sales, and everyone in my family except my very youngest brother has been very successful in sales.
Oh, that's interesting.
So one of my brothers was at domain.com for ages.
Yep.
But he'd grown up selling Yellow Pages and then got into all sorts of different things and then ended up
And Yellow Pages, that would be
door-to-door.
Sales 101.
Yeah.
Like you really know how to sell if you can do that.
Yep. Going door-to-door on businesses to get them, because you know how Yellow Pages, for those of you that can't remember phone books, had a listing and then you could make your ad bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes, and you could put photos and bold type and all these different things.
And so his job was to get people to make a bigger ad.
Yeah.
My sister was in house sales and like building sales, and now she's a mortgage broker. So and I was obviously a very successful financial services business, which is all literally, I hate to say it because it's such a gift to be able to give people financial education and everything, but it's really all about sales. So talk to me about what made you write the book.
Well, I've been in the world of selling for 27 years. And 13 years ago, I started my own business to help other people with sales. And it was so the book started really 13 years ago, because what happened was I knew that I was good at selling, and I knew it like I know driving a car. But those first clients really helped me unpack what it was that made it good. And so every time they sent to me, so they'd say to me, oh, Fran, you asked the best question. And I instead of just saying, oh, thank you, I'd say, why? Tell me. And so they really helped me unpack it. And so out of that process, I built an online sales training course. So this is 13 years ago. I actually launched it 2 weeks before my first baby was born. Because we know that when you have a newborn, you've got lots of time on your hands.
Heaps.
Yeah. Delusional.
And sleep really well as well.
Oh, yeah. What am I going to do? This baby just sleeps. Anyway, so I learned some lessons there. But yes, I built this course about selling and how to do it in a whole different way.
This is placeholder media that you'll see if you add a layout to an empty scene. You can go ahead and delete it.
And I suppose over the last 13 years of working on this, I've really what I want to do is I want to shake people nicely and say that icky, sticky world of pushy make it all about me. You can see the dollar signs in people's eyes, or that they're looking for your wallet, right? That is dead. I call that crocodile selling. And the reason I call it crocodile selling is because, yes, you can look around the world and there are crocodiles still here, but that does not mean we're in the age of the dinosaur. Their time is done, dead. And the new world of selling is actually not about me wanting to do anything for me. It's about me helping this person who's in front of me, my potential client, make a good buying decision for them. So that's the process. And if we focus in on the process, then the outcome will look after itself. And what we're doing is we're enabling people to have much more adult relationships in selling. It's not that I'm subservient to them or I'm trying to push them into anything. We're equal. And we share, and the outcome might be they decide not to buy from you. And that's great.
Or not to buy from you at that moment.
Correct. It's not about everybody in the world saying yes to me. That's not what selling is.
Yep. Really very much not. And throughout the book, you talk about great selling and what that entails. And I love that term, in fact, which is more or less what you've just described. Give me a situation that you've been in that has been a great selling.
Oh, well, actually, this is funny. So my now husband was years ago my client. And this is before, again, I'm trying to remember, was it last century or early 2000s? I think it might have even been last century. I love saying that because it just makes me feel so wise. So anyway, he was working in a pub, and I was selling hospitality software and systems and all of that. So he rang me and said, listen, I want to buy this really massive printer that did double-sided, full color A3, so expensive. So this wasn't a printer that you could buy anywhere. You had to buy it through a dealer. And anyway, I said to him, no, it's too expensive. I'm not selling it to you. And he just stopped. And he said, what do you mean? And back in the day, this is when you could make 30-35% margin on those sort of pieces of equipment. So it would have been a very nice sale. Anyway, so I said to him, he said, I need it. I said, well, you need to justify it to me. I want to know what you're going to say. And so he did. He got his spreadsheet out and he did the exercise of, well, I'm paying for this printing over here and I'll do these, and we've got a nightclub and we're going to put this here. So he did the exercise. And after he showed me that it was a good investment, then I allowed him to buy it from me. And then years later, we got married.
It really flips things on its head. I love that you got married as well, because there's another sale. Ka-ching.
Yes.
But that is really great. That is exactly what I've seen people do. Just make people know you, like you, trust you.
Yeah.
Which again is another part of your book.
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
How do people get to that high level of selling?
Well, I think that actually the people who are most frightened of selling are actually closer to it than salespeople. Because the reason they're fearful is because they don't want to be that icky, sticky salesperson, right? So actually their natural intuition is to be kind to the person who they're talking to, but their version of doing that is not to step into their power and not to guide the other person. So all I have to do is, I know it sounds really simple, all you have to do is just eradicate the mindset that you think it's icky sticky. So that's kind of step one. Step two, is to really orientate around the customer and really understand what's going on for them. And then step 3 is to use what you've learned for good and prescribe. Often when I'm working with clients around this, I'll say to them, you don't go to the doctor and the doctor does all the tests and, yep, you've got a broken arm. And then the doctor doesn't say, well, would you like a Band-Aid or would you like a cast? The doctor doesn't say that. The doctor says, wow, that's this sort of a fracture and we've done this test and this is, and here's what's going to happen and we need to get a cast on it and then we need to do this and then we need to do that. How does that sound? And you go, great. You're the expert. You've done the tests. Well, that's what clients want from you. I had a really interesting experience. I was working with a healer and I taught her about this prescription thing. So she'd get people in on a free call, but she really couldn't convert. And so I talked to her about this prescription thing and she just started converting those clients overnight. And then she rang me a month later or something and she said, Ryan, I get what you're talking about. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, I was on somebody else's webinar and we got to the point where they normally would say something, what's the invitation? What does the next step look like? And they stopped. Right. And she said, I felt really uncomfortable. I wanted to take the next step with this person, but I didn't know what that looked like and I didn't feel comfortable to ask. And so often when we're selling or when we stop mid-sentence, it's like when you ask someone to dance and the music's still going and they're still dancing and you just stop.
It is exactly like that. And having in previous lives been a manager of salespeople, I cannot tell you how often I have seen that happen, but particularly with self-employed women. And I had an experience the other day and this was really odd. She'd taken me through her whole spiel and what she was going to do and how it was going to work for me. And then she was telling me about her costs. And she said, well, this would be 6. And I thought, does she mean 600, 6,000, 6 million? This would be 6.
6 what?
She meant 6,000.
Right, okay.
But it was a coaching package. And she meant 6,000, but she couldn't say the words.
Oh.
She couldn't articulate the money.
Yeah.
And she had everything else right. And I was like,
what?
Oh, honey.
Yeah, and it's the mindset thing. When we think and when we're fearful of something, often we revert to the opposite. So if we're fearful of being that used car salesman type of person, instead of being the normal person, we go back the other way. And that's a good example of what you're talking about there. So there's no ownership of that.
I know. It's like being ashamed to want to earn money. And I find that a lot with my clients. Not that they're not asking for it, but they get to that certain point and they're like, but they're going to think I'm too expensive. They're going to think that I'm not worth it. They're going to think that, well, they're not because they're already at the table and waiting to be served.
Yeah, but the truth also is there are some people who won't understand or realize the value. And that's okay because that's their decision. And so our job is to focus on a beautiful process, focus on the yellow brick road and sending people down that path. And if they choose to go into the field of opium and fall asleep, that's completely up to them. But we can come and kind of wake them up, Glinda, the Good Witch of the North.
I love that. Throughout the book, when you're reading the book, there are a whole lot of references to The Wizard of Oz, which is just divine. And I love the one where that fear of selling that we were talking about a minute ago, and Dorothy's standing in front of the wizard and terrified.
Yes.
And because we are terrified, we are scared. What are we scared of?
I think all the things that you say. I think we're scared of rejection. We're scared of them saying yes. We're scared of them saying no. We're scared of them asking questions. And one of the things that I think does people a big disservice is we use, or not I don't, but people in the sales world use the term handling objections. And I really hate that because you handle a snake, you handle a problem and you bat it away. Whereas an objection or a question is actually someone considering buying from you. So let's think about my coaching program, for example, right? And if someone says to me, "Oh, but Fran, how often do we meet?" That's a good question. And I said, well, what happens is we do this and we meet weekly and etc. And they go, right. And then they might have another question. So, and often as the person who's thinking about buying, your first level question is often quite easy to answer. But then that gives, if you answer it beautifully, then that gives me the courage to ask the one underneath, which is probably a bit trickier for me. And then we often get to the real question. So
I have never thought of that like that.
Yeah. And so that's that know, like, trust. So you think about it, if I often use kids. And so if every time your kid asks a question, you go, shush, then what are they going to do? They're going to stop asking questions. Well, your clients are exactly the same. Your clients are adults, but they're really children inside. So if they ask a question and you don't lovingly answer that and approach them for more questions, the puppy was in here before, like the dog with a ball. You throw it for them and then they come back with the ball going, do it again, do it again.
Yes.
So I want you to be like that, like a dog with a ball or a bone, and keep encouraging the questions until the client is ready to make a decision that is good for them.
It's fantastic. You mentioned your coaching program. Say more about that.
So, yes, I've got a Accelerate Sales coaching program. It's a 6-month program. And really, I love working. I do coach men, I have to say, but the majority of people I coach are women.
Yeah.
But to me, it's really about a few things. One is about building their mindset to understand what great selling is. 2, it's about helping them understand what that value proposition actually sounds like and orientating it very much around their client. So what do clients say about you and why is that important and what's their value? What value did they get? So, and then once we understand that, then how do we display that? How do we build that roadmap and that yellow brick road so it's obvious who I'm for and who I'm not for? It's obvious the path that I take people down and the kind of value that people get out of working with me. So that's what I love doing, because women turn around and say to me, Fran, you just make it so easy. And they say, you've got the words, and at first I didn't know that I would have the words, but then I found them. And I love that.
That is so beautiful.
It's so rewarding.
That's so good.
If starting 2026 strong is what you're after, then join my 90-day sales success planning masterclass. 2 hours to nail your numbers, map your weekly activity, and build a successful.
Is that you work a lot more with women? Is that because, do you think because you're female, or do you think that's because women find it harder to get sales, or because women find it easier to ask for help with something they're not good at?
Oh, I don't think it's the last. I think that I like how women approach business, but also in that approach, they often find that the more kind of American direct version of selling doesn't really work for them. And so my version of selling really appeals to them and to some men as well. It's not that it's gender specific. It's just that I think there's more women who have that problem of not being bold.
Yes.
And I think that, I don't know whether it's a nurture or nature thing, but I remember when I did the AICD course, what the AICD found, and the corporate directors, so women who wanted to get a director's role did the course first and then went and found role position. Men, on the other hand, got a number of board positions and then thought, oh, maybe I should do the course. So we just approach it differently. And I'm sure there's some cultural stuff in there, but it just means that a woman going for a board position potentially is more prepared for actually what they need to do.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So
we do. I think with a lot of my friends, we like a qualification. We like to have done the We like to have done the work. We like to be able to hold up the certificate or the whatever. More sales, less marketing. A lot of people concentrate very heavily on social media and
marketing.
Talk to me about that.
Well, I like to use the analogy that ultimately soul is souls. That's sales and marketing together.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Souls.
Anyway, sales and marketing assisted. But I think they're more frenemies at the moment or more enemies than really working as sisters. So I think that some elements of marketing have just gone rogue, and they'll say things, they won't even mention sales. They'll say, if you want clients, just get this marketing engine and this magic will happen. But I think that actually, if you're starting out, what you actually need is paying clients.
Yes.
Because if you have an idea, then you need to test that in the market and as soon as you can. And not just test the idea, test that it solves someone's problem and that they will pay for that. Not in theory, in practice. So, and what I mean by that, instead of saying, oh, I've got this idea that for people who have this problem, here's my solution. Yes, say all of those things and then say, and I'm going to charge $3,000 or $6,000.
Six.
Would you buy it? Are you open to buying that? So actually ask them to buy. And that in that way, when someone says yes to you, when you've just got this nascent idea, then you scramble like hell to get it done, right? And I don't mean that you should be dishonest.
No.
But I do mean that you say, here's the problem that I see. Here's what I'm doing about it. This is where I'm at in that journey. Would you invest in me? That's what you're asking. And the minute that person says yes, or you find a person that says yes, then it's their experience that we're capturing. It's that experience that then allows us to talk to other people about, my client find this, and the people that I work with do this and this. So you're telling the story of your client. And if you don't have any clients, then you can't tell their story because they don't exist.
Right.
And I love fiction, but not in business.
That is such a good, that's going on a story. I love fiction, but not in business. But that's true. And I meet so many people at networking events and particularly I think, I don't know if this is just because they're more comfortable to talk or whatever, but at the women's stuff in particular, who have a business, but they also have a job.
Yeah.
Because they don't really have a business because they have just sort of some sort of marketing situation going on Instagram that has a certain amount of followers that actually hasn't converted into any sales. So I love that example. And it's not to say that it couldn't, but it's just sell first, market later is almost revolutionary in today's world.
Well, it is. But, one of the things that I've done is I've spoken to lots of marketers because look, I love marketing and some of my best friends are marketers. And they agree with me that great marketing is actually centered around the customer experience.
Mm.
And if you deeply understand what it is that people are buying, not what you're selling, what they're buying, why they buy, and what that buying journey looks like, then you model your marketing and your selling around that. That's when it gels. I'm doing a bit of work for a client at the moment and I'm doing some client interviews. So I actually take them back through that buying journey and so that I understand their words, emotions and tactics and their expectations. So I did an interview yesterday And this client expected the solution to take 3 or 4 months until she saw some visible results. Well, she got those results in 3 or 4 days.
That's incredible.
Right. So now if we've got that message, if the general expectation out there is that it's 3 to 4 months and we can deliver in 3 to 4 days, now that is a value proposition.
That's amazing value proposition.
Yeah.
Because aside from money, the other thing that we're always short of is time. I don't want to spend 3 to 4 months.
No, if you don't have to.
Not if I don't have to. And I don't have that level of focus.
I'm so with you there.
Like I just don't.
Oh, shiny.
I've lost it at month 2.5. I've lost it.
Yep.
How I finished a degree, I'll never know.
No. Well, when I was listening to you last night talking about your MBA,
Yeah.
and it made me laugh because it made me think about when I did mine. I played a little game with myself.
Mm-hmm.
What was the least amount of work that I had to do to get a 6, like a distinction average? That was the game. So every semester, that would be the game that I played. Sometimes I won, sometimes I lost, but here I am.
That's such a I like the way that I like the way that you organize your thoughts, that you have everything's a process, everything's a game, like it's play.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of play in sales, isn't there? But
yes, because back to the differences between marketing and selling. The marketing brain says, let's get this perfect, like the logo, the colors, the shading, that whatever it is, let's get this beautiful, and then let's take that to market. And that thinking is fantastic. But the sales mindset says, oh, no, I can't wait. Let me take whatever I have right now and present that to a potential client. And so you have to play around the edges, because whatever you have isn't perfect. The messaging, the information. And so it's all about that interaction, which is why body language is so important. So in the world of we're always on Zoom or phone or email, 56% of communication is completely nonverbal. No sound, it's body language. And so over Zoom, we get a certain amount of that, but it's also tarnished by the fact that the person's looking at themselves as much as they're looking at you. And that changes what we do with our facial expressions because we're more aware of it. And so selling over Zoom can be a real trap. Whereas if you're selling face to face, you get to play and to read the audience and then to modify what you're doing. So it's absolutely a game. I'll tell you a funny story. So I used to sell IT equipment to accountants. Bless them, right? Love accountants.
I know a few accountants.
Yes, I know. Like, amazing.
Yeah.
So I was working with a particular accounting firm. There were 6 partners. So you can imagine the size of the firm, right? So 50, 60 people. And before meeting me, they'd spent $150,000 on a solution that was not working, right? Which literally meant that half of their team were not able to work at any one time. So you can imagine what that was costing them. And this is, close to 20 years ago. So you can imagine what that was costing them. But they were refusing to make a decision. Anyway, so I did up a proposal, and actually what they needed to do was spend another $150,000, which they weren't that keen on, which I get emotionally. Like, I've just spent that. How do I know? We'd put in a temporary server for them to get them limping along so that at least all their people could work at the same time. I know, miracle. And it was coming up to Easter, and here I was in front of 6 grey-suited men, the partners, and I said to them, right, well, here's the proposal. This is what we need to do. And one of the partners said, oh, well, it's coming up to Easter, so we'll think about it over Easter and we'll get back to you. And I just looked at him and I said, let me be really clear. I said, we have a loan server in to help you limp through. That is not a permanent solution. I don't think you've got that time. Now, I know that you've spent $150,000 on something that doesn't work, and I'm sorry. I was not involved in that, and I'm sorry that has happened to you. But I want you to all repeat after me, my baby is ugly. And so these grey suited, and I said, and I'm serious. I'm serious. And they go, my baby is. And I go, right. Now we've got that dead cats on the table. Now we can actually make a decision that's going to benefit your business. Please sign on the dotted line.
They signed, didn't they?
Of course they did.
Of course they did.
My baby's ugly.
Did you just think of that on the spot?
Yes.
I love that for you.
I'm actually training, as much as my kids are training me in sales, because they're the ultimate trainers in negotiation.
Yeah.
I'm also training them. So I often play theatre sports games with them. I don't tell them that's what it is.
Yep.
So there's one of my favourites is yes and. So you can't say no to mum. So can you unstack the dishwasher? You can't say no. So yes and then you can sort of go, can I have a lolly, mum? Yes. And after you clean your room.
So you can get anyone to do anything, really.
That's right. So yes and. So it's a really good skill to be able to think on your feet.
To be able to persuade people at that level, I think is quite incredible. And I think a lot of people that are listening or watching on YouTube will be sitting here thinking she's amazing, which we know she's got an amazing book. But I could never be that. How do you take someone who is sitting there afraid, and I know we spoke about the contents of the course, but how do you really get in and switch that mindset? I get how you've seen the gaps and stuff like that, but for someone that's just missing.
So I've got 2 rules in selling. Rule number 1 is you've got to be yourself. So I'm a cheeky ass, upfront, extroverted, I think a lot. So that's how I sell. So I am me when I'm selling. So if you're a highly introverted, analytical spreadsheet, that's your thing, then use that to sell. There's no one way. This concept that you've got to be brazen and out there and all of those things to sell is just wrong. That's part of that crocodile selling, because that's what you see, these people who are really pushy and brazen. So let's get that out of your head. The second, so in order to help people be themselves, I do 2 things. 1, I use the inner metrics tool. So everyone who does coaching with me, one-to-one coaching with me, gets an inner metrics profile. And so what that looks like is it's a disc, it's an advanced disc profile. So I can see what they lean into, what they're good at and what they're not good at in their attributes in the way that they work. I can see what they value. So do they value economic return? Do they value theoretical aesthetics? What is it that they value? And then lastly, I can see their behavior. So are they direct or are they slower? And so then I can help them become their version of a salesperson. And so that brings me to my second rule, which is get over yourself. So yes, be yourself, but you cannot sit in fear. And I've done that as well. I've been scared to pick up the phone. So it's not that what you see here is in some ways any different to anybody else. But you've got to get over yourself. You've got to pick up the phone. You've got to make that phone call. You've got to ask the questions. You've got to humble yourself in order to serve your customer.
When you made the transition to obviously highly paid, highly successful commission-based selling, which I'm guessing is what you're doing with all those software programs and stuff like that, to your own business, how difficult did you find it?
so difficult. So I have to give you some context because I just finished my MBA. And everybody knows that someone with an MBA has to become a consultant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's what I decided. I was part owner in an IT business,
Mm-hmm.
and we just sacked our biggest client.
Mm-hmm.
So we were $6 million turnover, and that client was worth $2 million, not 2,000.
Not 2,000, not two.
Not two.
2
2
million.
million. So a third of our revenue gone. And so that was a big decision to make. So the 3 directors sat down and we worked from the customer backwards. Not people, what roles? What did we need to stay in our business? What did we need to then have a modicum of growth in there? And in that process, I basically made myself redundant because I wasn't needed. I'd done what I needed to do. I go in, I transform people's sales system, and then I want a new thing. So I'd kind of done that. So I made myself redundant. I offboarded that client, and then I started my business in November, just before Christmas. And I was adamant that I was not going to do anything to do with selling. But I was done.
Yeah.
I was done. So I actually followed my own advice. So I started going out I've got a great network. I go to people and go, what's your problem right now? And one guy had a problem with a tricky person they were co-owners of a business and they were completely disagreeing. So I went and advocated for him and we worked out a solution. So I was good at that, got it done, but I hated it. So I thought, okay, next. So I just went and helped people. Anyway, and then I came across someone else that I knew and he said, I need to set up a reseller program for my software. And I'm like, I can do that. Yeah, that's selling. Of course I can do that. And then that's where the journey started of me unpacking what I knew about selling. And I just went, oh, actually I enjoy this. Who knew?
Who knew?
Yeah, not me.
And I love that. Have you read Guy Hendricks? And he talks about zone of excellence, that place that you're really good, and then zone of genius, that place where you're really good but constantly in flow and constantly inspired and constantly building and growing on that. And when you discover that, it's just I can see it in your face.
Yes.
It's just such an absolute joy.
Yes. And so for me, coming up with the words and working out the sales process and working through those things with my client, it's just so easy. And I don't diminish that it's not easy for them, but I can see the steps. And so what I do is I help them take the steps. So, yeah.
The best thing about having a coach, and particularly having a coach that is so specialized in such a specialized area that's so needed in your business, is that you can't see what you can't see, but someone can come in and sort of almost see it immediately.
Yes.
And it makes the biggest difference. I don't think I've ever been without some sort of coaching situation in my own business.
Yeah.
Just because I need that.
Well, yeah, you've got
bird's eye view.
Yes, and you've got to stretch yourself. Oh.
It's not letting me send the thing. I think I'm very rude. I just said, please text me. It was just the first thing that came up.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Can't remember where we were.
That's okay.
Zone of genius.
Zone of genius, zone of excellence.
Oh, yes. And so I think to me, the greatest joy that I have is not what I do. It's seeing that aha from my client and seeing them get it and go, and it lifts this weight. And it can be really subtle. I was working with a woman recently and she's doing stuff that is taking something from a 6-week journey to a 2-day journey, right? And I said to her, you need to be faster because that's part of your brand. And she goes, but what if my clients don't want that? And I go, well, you don't know if you don't try. So we've got to be brand consistent.
Yeah.
If you're good with money, you got to talk about money.
Yep.
And so you don't go to a money person and say 6.
You don't go to a money person and say 6, because that just makes me want to fix her problems, fix her relationship with money.
Yes. Yeah.
And not necessarily do business with her, because
Yeah.
you just, with the greatest love in the world, I've got to fix that first. And then once I fix that, then we can go ahead and do the business that we need to do. Because I find that quite a lot. And that very much staying in your lane and knowing what you're extremely good at makes such a big difference to how you feel at the end of the day when you've got that business.
Yes. And that brings me to your question.
Yes.
About money and a good money story. Is that what
good
you
money
said?
story? Good money decision that you've made.
Well, so it really made me pause, Phoebe, because look at me getting all nervous with my hand and nonverbal communication. I have made good money decisions. Like I bought a property in St Kilda in 2000, which has now quadrupled in price. So that was good. But I don't know that I planned, like I just had kind of loose plans about what I'm going to do. So I don't think I've ever really gone into the weeds of money. And so my budget, I've done budgets, but they're not that accurate. I
always think of them as a framework, because we use in my own, what I'm doing, the actual solution you can get to really quickly. But there's a process that you've got to take first that opens your eyes as to what you're spending.
Yes.
And then once you've gone through that process, the rest takes 5 minutes. Set yourself up.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to watch people. So when you talk about making good money decision with property, isn't always a good money decision.
No.
But St Kilda property could never not be. So you don't realise that the value in what you're doing sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the small value in what you're doing when you step out and be brave. What about exiting the business? Was that a good money decision?
No.
Could have been.
Because I exited as an employee.
Right.
But not as a shareholder.
Ah.
So that was an interesting dynamic that didn't really work. And so then when it came to not being a shareholder anymore, I really had less understanding of where the business was at. And
What would you have done differently in that situation?
Or I'd like to say, if I had a time machine, I'd go back and be an employee in that business, but not a shareholder.
Yep.
To be honest.
Yep.
Because when you're an outlier, 2 men, very detail focused. I don't know whether you've done that Herman brain.
I haven't.
Green, blue, yellow, red.
I want to do it now.
Right brain, left brain. So they're both heavy this side, and I'm yellow, which is innovation, and red, which is people. So that's me. So if you've got this dynamic going on, that works when you're face to face, or if you're inside the business on a daily basis. But if you're then, these people are in there every day, and then you come to a board meeting once a month, it's like, who are you?
Right.
And your points of view are completely not valid, or they weren't invalid. And it's not that they had this idea that they would, I don't think it was conscious.
Yes.
But it's just, it's not, I'm not saying that I'm Steve Jobs, but Steve Jobs, Apple. Steve Jobs leaves, Apple.
Yes.
Steve Jobs come back. Right?
Yes.
So I'm not saying that I'm Steve Jobs.
But you need the innovator in the business.
Yes. You need to be in there all the time in order for that to gel.
Talking to the people, asking them what they want.
Finding the question.
Yep. Getting a camera on a phone, and you also don't have to be the first to do it, do you? That's one of the big lessons from Steve Jobs. You don't have to be the first.
No.
You've just got to.
And you've got to share your insight.
Yes.
I remember when I still was in that business, we were doing cloud computing solutions before the term was in common usage. And we were very high up in our sales of the online Microsoft product. And so this is before all the stuff, Microsoft Office was online before 365. Anyway, so we had the head of Microsoft Office worldwide come into our office. So I'm just sitting in the boardroom with him and I said, so when's Office going online? And he goes, oh, Microsoft have no plans for that. And I said, look, I'm looking under the table and I said, there's no Microsoft. Yeah, just you.
You can tell me the truth.
I know it doesn't. What you've just said makes 0 sense because Google are doing this. And you've already just partnered with Telstra for mail for Outlook, so it doesn't make sense that you're not then putting Office online. And he went, I know Microsoft have no plan. I went, oh, I
get it.
Yeah. It could be our little secret.
How do you run a business when you're innovation and people? How do you control process and what was the other?
And detail.
And detail.
So that's an excellent question. I don't know that I have the answer. So I do use a lot of technology. So Read AI. I've been on Zoom for 10 years or something because I knew that it was things that happened in the instant that I couldn't then necessarily, like people would say to me, what are those words? And I go, because I've already said them. So those sort of technologies have really helped me. And then I have a clear system that I run through so that as much to keep me, but then I'm very much use an agile methodology. So 90-day plans, sprints, what are we doing? What are we focusing on? How can I help you? Yeah.
Do you work predominantly by yourself or have you got a team?
No, just by myself. But one of the things that I'm changing in 2025 is I do align with other specialists, but I want to do more of that. I actually want to do things where we're working together and producing something synergistic, kind of beyond what each of us can do as individuals. Yeah.
It's exciting, isn't it?
Innovation,
yes.
Shiny.
And it's, look, honestly, it's been the way that we've seen people work over years, but it's just, I don't know if you've read PricewaterhouseCoopers, The Future of Work, 2030. Really interesting.
Oh, okay.
So you've got red people, blue people, yellow people, and green people.
Oh.
And red people are big industries. So think Amazon and all that sort of stuff. I think I'm getting this right. Blue is still corporate and government.
Yep.
And that's going to be the future of work. Everyone's going to be in some sort of structural thing. But the yellow and the green are really interesting because yellow is artisans and small collaborations and green is environmental. I'm getting this. Yeah. And green is environmental. And if it's not, I made the whole thing up. But I did it quite a lot throughout my MBA because it had just been published. And I used it in a number of different subjects. And it's really interesting to see how often I come across business owners that are not small income businesses, but they're small businesses.
Yeah. Yeah.
So big income, small business, being able to collaborate with other people is just going to be sensational for the growth of both of those things.
Yeah.
And something that I think we'll see more and more of going into that future of yellow workspaces.
Yeah. And I think for me personally, my kids are a bit bigger and a bit more independent. So that just kind of frees my mental space up a little bit to kind of be a bit more creative with that.
Do you love getting older for that? Becoming wise?
Like getting older? I don't know. Maybe you need to ask my kids.
Yeah. She's over there. She's concentrating. Because that's one of the things I really like about getting older is that you just get all that sort of wisdom package going on with you.
Yeah, it's so true.
You stuff and you're sure of stuff. Whereas in your 20s and 30s, you sort of, you know it.
Yeah.
But do you know it?
Well, and I probably, just reflecting on what you've just said, what I did was I didn't find my husband till I was 40. Like I met him years and years prior, but we didn't actually reconnect. So I had kids at 41 and 43. So next year I'll be 54. So I kind of feel like I'm just coming out of whatever that mess is. And so for me, going into having kids at 40 when I felt like I knew everything was tricky. Yeah. And so whilst that built me, I think I'm just ready now to use those building blocks to make something better.
Yep. I'm really excited for a couple of the collaborations that you've talked to me about already.
Yeah.
Very excited for yours and Nikki's retreat. That's going to be amazing.
Yes.
And I think that you two are such a good combination. We'll do an interview with Nikki Kelly, but Nikki Kelly does a program called Wisdom, which is online courses, and she's amazing.
She's amazing.
But yeah, those kind of collaborations, I can't wait to see. And I know, as you were saying it to me last night, I was thinking of 4 or 5 people that I knew that I thought, I've got to get these people on that retreat.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Do stuff like that. It's going to be really fun.
Yes. And I think Nikki and I are such a great combo because I'm all out here and she's all down here. You know that?
Yes.
And she's so smart.
I'm seriously smart.
Yeah.
Seriously. Smart, well-read, and constantly curious.
Yeah.
Which is also, I think, a great trait in sales, is that constant curiosity.
Absolutely.
Which we haven't really spoken about.
No. But it's my second book, which I've got a working title of The Evolving Value Proposition.
Ooh.
How to build your business around your customer. So we think about the value proposition at the front end, but not kind of as we go through. And I've already decided that I'm going to build this one around Alice in Wonderland because I want people to go down the rabbit hole. So, yeah. So there's a theme going on here. We've got fields of opium in The Wizard of Oz, and now we've got mushroom eating and bugs that smoke things.
This is going to be an absolute, that's going to be fabulous though, because I think as people's expectations get higher, the value that you can give them it really does have to grow around that.
Yes.
Because they like you. They want to do more business with you.
Yeah. And you don't know. So here's the thing, right? We meet at a point in time where your value proposition is this thing and their need is this. And we come together and we make beautiful music. But then over the next 3 months, 6 months, year, 2 years, 10 years, whatever the time frame is, they learn a new instrument. You learn the bongo drums. There's a whole new thing. And so we need to, rather than thinking about it as a linear thing, we need to think about it as a natural, like Fibonacci numbers, right?
Yeah.
So how do we section back in and go, well, what I've learned recently is this and this, and what I'm doing about that is this and this, and I'm helping people with this. What's new for you? And it's just makes complete sense.
I really want to play with you with that because I have my beautiful book. I have my beautiful course. They finish the course. They're done.
Yeah. No, they're not.
But they're not.
Yeah.
And there's so much more. There's investing, there's super, there's all the other things,
Well,
but there's starting your own business, and there's
Yeah.
all these things that once we've got that basis of financial certainty,
Yes.
we can grow from there exponentially.
Yes.
But I haven't been, I know that it's there. I haven't been harnessing,
Yeah.
so I'm going to play with you with that.
Yay.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. That'll be a great book.
Yes.
And very in touch with, I think, what businesses, and particularly those people that have more time and have more money to invest back into their businesses,
Yes.
can grow and grow and
Yes.
do build that value.
Yes. And I
around
think
clients.
whether you're going back to your analogy about the yellow and so obviously that's a very yellow type of proposition. But I was actually talking to my son this morning about colours, and he said, well, why don't we just do all the things? And I said, well, what happens when you put all the things together? All the colours, what happens? He said, you get brown. I said, right. What happens when you got all the colours next to each other? They're together, but they're separate. He said, that's a rainbow. And I said, well, and what happens when you spin a rainbow? He said, you get white. And I said, exactly. So we don't want mud. We want people in their own lane. But we also know that the blue and the red and the whatever will benefit from a bit of yellow and benefit from a bit of green. And how do we make that a beautiful picture and not brown muck? Not that there's anything wrong with in moderation.
Yes. That is I love that analogy. That is really clever. That's so good. Thank you so much. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Oh, no. I think we've talked a lot
I love that.
So many different things.
About so many different things. So thank you so much for being a guest today. That was amazing.
Yeah, thank you, Phoebe.
I love that. I love your book.